Kimball, Sergeant Major Kimball, and I'm here today to give you a speech, a persuasive speech, on what it takes to make a good leader. We all have our own ideas of what a good leader is to us, and sometimes those things can be different depending on who you talk to. Now, my question to you today is, do you know what it takes to be an effective leader? Have you ever seen yourself or wondered to yourself, what does it take to be an effective leader or thought? Now, one of my heroes, and the former chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff and the former Secretary of State, which is Colin Powell, he summarized leadership in this particular fashion, and I quote, "Leadership is solving problems. The day soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you have stopped leading them. They have either lost confidence that you can help or concluded that you don't care. Either case is a failure of leadership." It's big words, right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
That's some big words. Effective leadership is essential for every team, unit, department, or organization that desires to be successful. Continuing to develop and refine your own leadership principles and philosophies with those of proven leaders normally promote mission success, and they normally allow for harmony in the workplace. Okay? For the last 28 years of my career, I have led soldiers at every level. You name it, brigade, Army level, battalion level, and even in combat. And I would tell you, leadership, it isn't easy. Would you agree? You have always have to refine your leadership styles and your approach to leadership in order to be successful. Now, some of the information that I'm going to share with you today, I picked out of an essay by Sing K on the qualities of a good leader, a book by Colin Powell which calls It Worked For Me. And I would tell you, if you have not read this book, it is a powerful book on leadership by Colin Powell. And also an essay by Redemptor Benedict on leadership. Why is leadership important? Well, leadership is important because it is important to the way our society. Every human activity has a need for leadership. Even when we're kids, we have a need for leadership from our parents. We have a need for leadership from our business organizations. We have a need for leadership in our governmental stages. Selecting the right leader is very important. Leaders can either build nations or leaders can tear down nations. Business leaders, they can either grow a Fortune 1000 company or they can destroy and crumble a $1 million organization. Now, how do we do that? How do we approach leadership? Leadership has 3 different approaches, and some of them are an authoritarian approach, which is normally it's a coercive power to kind of control others in the authoritarian approach. A democratic approach where there is involvement of others, and that's kind of more what we use in our own society is a democratic approach. And then there's a laissez-faire approach where it has the involvement of others, however, the leadership gives up that power, and it's a leaderless group of equals. Now, you may think about that and say, okay, I probably like that. But at some point in time, you got to have someone making a decision, right or wrong. Would you agree? Okay, so maybe the democratic approach is one that we would like to discuss a little bit further. Now, the approach that you use will not always result in you being successful, correct? You have to determine and develop that and see what works for you. Now, let's discuss some leadership failures. 2 leadership failures that come immediately to mind, to me, is the leadership failure in the Department of Veteran Affairs. General Eric Shinseki, okay, he was the Secretary of the Department of Veteran Affairs. He was forced to resign due to the abundant leadership failures across the board in the department that he headed. Now, those leadership failures had catastrophic results. they resulted in the deaths of veterans and the neglect of veterans. You know, and that put a black eye on this department, and it put a black eye on the president and his cabinet. Okay, what's another leadership failure most recently? How about Julia Pearson? She was the former director of the United States Secret Service. She was forced to resign because of the leadership failures in her organization. And the most recent being a fence jumper that got all the way inside the green room before he was apprehended. You know, that had catastrophic results to it too. And also put the president and his family at jeopardy. So you can kind of see where when you're not following those things up, you're not always in tune with what's going on with the people that work for you, you can have catastrophic failures across the board. Now, what I would like to tell you is that failures of this kind are avoidable, but it starts with leadership being present and in tune with those that they are tasked to lead. One of my favorite sayings is, inspect what you expect. You have to inspect those things that you expect out of your soldiers. And if you want to make sure that those things are happening, you have to be present and vigilant and following those things up. Some of those effective traits of a leader I just handed out with you. If you look at your handouts, let's go over some of those traits of a leader that makes for a successful leader. The very first one is integrity. And that's just basic, simply doing and saying what's right all the time. Is that hard? It is hard. It is a challenge because you're being watched every day. Soldiers watch your everyday movement, and they want to know that what you say, that you're actually practicing. Okay? Loyalty. Loyal to those with whom you serve, not being self-serving. Vision. Recognizing the purpose and leading your organization in that direction, but you have to do it effectively. Leaders who have vision can lead their organizations to move mountains, and people will work and move mountains for you because you have a vision of where you want to go and how to get there. Personal courage. You got to have personal courage as a leader. One of the effective traits of a leader is having personal courage. Standing up for what's right in the face of adversity and when it's not popular. Everybody can stand up when everybody's singing the same song, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're not singing the song that you don't like, and most people looking at you funny and crazy, that's when you got to have that personal courage and conviction to say, okay, hey, it's not popular, but this is my stance on it. Correct? Mm-hmm. All right. Creativity. Creative leaders are outside of the box thinkers. Any outside of the box thinkers in this room today? Oh, I would think so. Especially you guys with these blue medals around your chest. All right. And humility. I think all good leaders have humility. They have to be able to admit when they're wrong, and they share credit with others. Even if the idea didn't belong to them, they share credit. One of the Colin Powell's quotes, and I told you he's a hero of mine, about humility. He says, avoid having your ego so close to your position that when your position fails, your ego goes with it. Powerful words. And then the last one is optimism. Believe in themselves. Leaders believe in themselves and the others around them. They believe in the purpose and are always hunting the possibilities. Correct? Those are just some of the traits that I think that leaders share, successful leaders share. And I think that if you take those traits and you develop and you put those traits in your ways of being a leader, you will be successful as well. Now let's review the highlights. First, we talked about the importance of leadership, and we talked about 3 approaches to leadership. We talked about a couple of major impacts of leadership failures across the board and what they can result in. And then we discussed the traits of a leader. Effective leadership is essential for every team, unit, organization that desires to be successful. Continuing to develop and refine your own leadership philosophies will make you successful if you continue to develop it and refine it and practice it day in and day out. Sound leadership is essential to good order and discipline in every organization. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. I would agree with that as well. Today I'd like to close with a quote by Dr. Eugene B. Habaker. He's the president of Taylor University and the president of the American Bible Society. And this is his quote. He says, "The true leader serves people, serves their best interests, and in doing so will not always be popular, may not always impress, but because true leaders are motivated by loving concern rather than a desire for personal glory, they are willing to pay the price." My question to you today is, are you willing to pay that price? Thank you for your time, and I'll take whatever questions that you may have.